The Land.MBA tagline is think big, start small, and scale fast. So have you thought big and started small? Well, what about scaling? When it comes to scaling, you really need that CEO mindset so you can build a highly efficient organization that manages the day-to-day for you. In this episode of the Land.MBA podcast, Dave and I are going to speak with Roman Northcut, who has built an organization with dedicated full-time employees. Now his seven-figure land business is growing faster than ever, and he's looking for new challenges to fill all of his available time.
Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast, where we go deep into the business of land investing.
All right. Hey, guys. How's it going today?
Hey, Roman.
Good. Hey, guys. How are
Welcome
you?
to the podcast.
Thanks. Glad to be
Good to
here.
have you.
It's a cozy place to be.
I tell you, I'm noticing that there seems to be a lot more sunlight where you are than where Dave and I are. I mean, there's not a lot of sunlight because it's gray here in Connecticut. I think there's not a lot of sunlight for Dave because they keep him under the stairs.
Yeah. Well, I got a nice,
what it looks like.
nice basement window here, but it is cloudy here today too, unfortunately.
Well, here in Florida, it's actually kind of a little overcast too.
Oh.
But I have to say, it's probably still sunnier here. It's Florida.
Probably so.
You know?
Yep.
So, Roman, it's so good to have you on the call. We've been wanting to get you on the podcast, and what I think is reason I've been so excited to get you in particularly on the podcast is because you are actually a serial entrepreneur. And by that, I don't mean Cheerios. I mean, this is not your first rodeo. So give us just a quick little bit of background and tell us about, your previous entrepreneurial experience and sort of how you ended up in land.
Okay, good question. So, I haven't had a job since early college, I think. Probably was my last job that I had. So I did, I started off just trying some little things off the internet and really in the beginning traded cars and all whatever I could do to kind of make a little extra money. But then my first, significant business was a pre-owned Rolex business that I had for 10 years. We bought pre-owned Rolexes, souped them up with some diamonds and made them look really pretty sometimes, or just cleaned them up and resold them and did that for 10 years. We were actually the first website online dedicated to pre-owned Rolexes back in 1999, at least the first one that I found. I did a search when I started it to see if anybody was doing it. Nobody was doing it, and I was nervous about doing it, but it worked out very well for a long time.
This is when you were in college?
It started when I was in college. Mm-hmm.
Where'd the idea come from?
Struggle. Running out of ramen noodles. I would say the idea came from, it originated by a trip to the flea market. And when I went to the flea market, I found a guy that was selling fake Oakley sunglasses. Now, I'm in college. I'm like, wow, Oakley sunglasses for $10. Amazing. Well, I bought a pair, brought them back. I was living in a fraternity house, and all my friends were like, oh, nice glasses. Where'd you get them? I'm like, aha. Went back. I bought 12 pair, sold them all. The guy happened to be selling fake watches as well, Tag Heuer, fake Rolexes, fake Gucci watches. Bought a bunch of those, created a website called Replication, and actually did that and did well with it for maybe like 6 months until all of a sudden the attorney letters started rolling in from all the companies with
counterfeiter.
cease and desist. I remember seeing that a number of times. So I decided to not put up a fight and go ahead and dump that. And I actually jumped on eBay and tried to find a gap in pricing for something. So I found the same Rolex got relisted like 3 or 4 times, and the lowest time, because it didn't hit reserve, and the lowest time the bidding went up to 500, and the highest time the bidding went up to like $750. I'm like, there's a $250 gap here. and it's the same exact ad. What would happen if I bought something that looked crummy and fixed it up and made it look nice and took better pictures? Well, how big would that gap get? And so I just started with one watch. I saved up, ramen noodle money and bought one watch and turned it into two, turned it into three, and, ended up creating a pretty sizable business out of that over the next few years.
Wow. So you were the king of fix and flips of watches.
Of watches, that's right.
Hey, there's still no tenants, no toilets, no termites.
That's it. But we didn't own or finance anything. That's a hard one to foreclose.
Yeah.
When I was living in Denver, I stopped at this consignment store, and they had this keyboard. In fact, I have it. It's right over here. It's about this big. It's a little MIDI controller keyboard because I play keyboards. And they had it there, and I had the exact same one at home, and I knew exactly what it was worth. And they had it. It was in better condition than mine, and they wanted $22 for it. I'm like, I'll take it. So I take it home, and then I take mine, which wasn't in quite as good condition. I break out the Windex, and I scrub it all up, and they go for like $100. They're not that expensive. And I put it up on Craigslist for $50 and sold it in like 5 hours. And I'm like, wow, I could go drink this money, or what would happen if I just kept reinvesting it? And so I started this whole thing, and I would go on Saturday and Sunday mornings. I would go hit the tag sales, and I would get like all these contractors were going out of business. This is around 2008, 2009. And I would buy up all of their power tools at like, really nice ones, but like pennies on the dollar. And they're all full of, grease and whatnot. And I'd break out the Windex and I'd scrub it all up, put it on Craigslist. And, I turned it into, a few thousands of dollars, but not quite a 10-year run. I called it my Sanford and Son business.
And not very scalable.
Well, that's how I got into land, because I kept thinking, model, I just need to find a product with a higher price point.
Yes.
That helps.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you did watches.
And then 2008, 2009 bit me very strongly. I had some money tied up in a house flip, actually, but I bought at the very wrong time, and it lost a bunch of value. I had a mechanic shop at the time as well that kind of went under at that point in time, and all of a sudden nobody was buying, Rolex watches. So I ended up filing bankruptcy, and pretty much lost everything. My house, cars, ended up renting a room, started from scratch. And a friend of mine came to me. He wanted to start a vodka business with me. And I said, no, but I don't think so. But I've got another idea, and ended up starting a biker jewelry company. I go to Bike Week every year, love it. And stainless steel jewelry had not really hit the widespread like it is now. And it was just kind of coming around, and they could buy them so cheap, these rings so cheap. So Daytona Bike Week was coming around, and I went out there the first weekend of Bike Week, looked around, everybody was selling silver, nobody was selling stainless steel, and placed a real fast order. And by the second weekend, went out there and found a little booth in the corner, because that's all they had left, behind a light pole, and started a company called Blue Steel that we ended up, traveling the entire country, going to pretty much every bike festival there is, Laconia, Sturgis, Galveston, of course, all the ones here in Florida. Sold a ton of jewelry. We went online. We had 365,000 Facebook fans right when I sold it. So it did well. We became the #1 biker jewelry company on the circuit, and did great. I kind of got burnt out of it towards the end, and I don't wear any jewelry myself, so it didn't really have my passion. So after that did well, and then after 4 or 5 years, ended up selling it and kind of moving on from there.
Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your JOB and hello to financial freedom.
Roman, I remember us talking about this a while back, and I think it's kind of an interesting story about how Facebook changed its algorithm when you were in that business. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. It was something that's unforeseen. It's almost like what we're going through right now with the virus, something that just comes out of the blue. And we always want to be prepared for it. So I mentioned that I had Blue Steel, and we had the road teams going around the country, going to all the biker events, which was the main source of cash. But by this point in time, we'd also developed an online website, and we're growing our Facebook page. We were using kind of some guerrilla marketing tactics from the road show, giving away freebies to sign up on our Facebook page. It was growing our Facebook page really well, and it began to become a revenue generator. Our fans were liking our posts and buying jewelry. And in the beginning, I remember when we had like 10,000 Facebook fans, we would just make a post on our page and all 10,000 fans would see it. So we were getting a lot of reach. And my brain went off like, oh my gosh, if we had 100,000 fans, how much money would we make? And 200,000 fans, how much money would we make? So we began to really push the Facebook and grew it from 10,000, like I said, all the way up to, I think, 365,000 fans, which is more than most big corporations have. But the problem was Facebook, somewhere along that path, I think when we got to around 30 or 40,000, 50,000, they started implementing an algorithm to limit the amount of fans that will see your posts. And the reason why they did that is because they began having paid ads available, and they were pushing everybody to go to paid ads. Well, when we were in that algorithm continually over time scaled down the number of fans that were actually get touched whenever you would post. So when we had 10,000 fans would see our post. But when we had 350,000 fans, like 60 people would see that post. So it was a drastic change. And we were getting, at least half of our revenue from our Facebook at that time. So that was something that was unforeseen, something we had absolutely no control over. We did try doing some paid ads and they worked okay, kind of kept us going for a while. But these unforeseen events, you just never know, when something like that's going to happen. So it's want to be prepared and not be so dependent upon, one source, I think was my lesson.
Just out of curiosity, so if you were still doing that and that happened and you wanted to stay in the business, how would you have dealt with it?
That's a tough one to answer because I don't know if I would have really wanted to. There's other challenges to that. So everything is going to paid ads at that time. This was 2012, 2011, 2013. And, paid ads is now becoming the big thing, Google ads. And the issue with that that land doesn't have the issue of was price point. So, we were selling $30, $40, $50 rings, $100 bracelets, kind of on the high end, and some stuff even $20. So when it's $20 for a ring or even $40 for a ring, but you got to pay 30 cents a click, and you got to drive multiple people to get one person to buy, the revenues were really, really going down. And we could have stayed on tour, but really getting tired of being on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And, actually by then silver was kind of coming up, or stainless steel was becoming more and more popular. So we weren't, the only guy in the fight, the only dog in the fight at that point in time. So, competition kind of got to us, but, overall it really was, the price point, of the product really limited what we could do when free advertising was limited.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That seems like it really ate into your margins for sure. You hit on a great point there. And it's something that, we try to drive home, at Land.MBA, and that is if you're too narrow on your income streams, you got to have multiple income streams. And it's why, perfect example with all the people losing their jobs right now, but yet, you know what? We're still selling land. We're still buying and selling land. The land business hasn't, from what I've seen, been impacted. Now it might be a delayed reaction. I don't know, but it's great for people to have some other stream of income, some side hustle, whether they're working a job and they got a side hustle, or you've got a married couple where one of them works and one of them runs a business. It's just, I think it's so important, especially today's day and age. Something comes around that you can't foresee, and there's no perfect insurance for everything. You might have two different streams of income, and they might both get plowed. You never know, but I believe in the odds.
Sure.
So how did you find land?
Yep.
Well, I sold that company, and then partnered into an interior design firm for a couple of years, and that was a perfect amount of time for it. And I got to the point where all of the businesses I'd had in the past, I enjoyed them for running business. Like, that's always a fun thing for me to start a business and grow it and run it. That's always fun, but I never was really passionate about the product. So burnout became a real thing for me in every single one. And it began to be like labor became labor. And like, what am I doing? I'm still working. Like, it's still a challenge. It's still a struggle. And so I quit out of the interior design business and just promised myself that I was not going to make $1 or take $1 for anything, drive an Uber car. I wasn't going to do anything at all until I found something that I truly loved and that I was passionate about for what it was. And if I had to go broke discovering that, then I just would have to go broke. And so I took about 2 or 3 months. Actually, I didn't have a specific time. You can't put a time limit on that. So I just began researching and brainstorming about, what is it that I would be passionate about? What is it, something I would really love to do for the sake of doing it? And one was real estate, and the other one was some type of personal development, whether it be coaching or training or speaking. And I researched, once I discovered that, I researched both pretty extensively, and came on an opportunity where I saw somebody talking about land flipping or investing, and it just really caught my eye. And I said, I think this is it. This is it. So kind of dove full force into that. I found a mentor and just went full time.
See, I think that there's so much to unpack here. Whenever I talk to you, I always feel like, wow, I'm talking to a true entrepreneur. Because I came up after the Marine Corps. I went into the corporate world, and I was in the corporate world for a long time until I started doing this. This was my first foray into real entrepreneurialism. But I was very entrepreneurial before. But what I discovered is that there's a huge difference between being entrepreneurial and being an entrepreneur. And the difference is your willingness to take on risk. And, I hear you. It's like, if I have to go broke to figure it out, then I'll go broke. Or I already went broke and then I came back and now I've reached new heights. And that to me is just a mindset that is the mindset of an entrepreneur. And not everybody has it, or maybe it's just something that, you have to get there at the right time. I mean, in my case, it was certainly, I had to get there at the right time. I had a couple friends that I was working with early in my career at Lucent Technologies, and they were born entrepreneurs. They had no business being in a company like Lucent. They both ended up leaving and starting their own companies. And my friend Joe would always try to get me to go with him. And he's like, Howard, you got to remember one thing. This is America. You cannot starve in America. If you're willing to work, if you have a half a brain in your head, at a minimum, you're going to be able to eat. So just take a chance. And I just couldn't do it at the time. But I listened to you and they're like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah, it's Thanks. Awesome.
I appreciate that. And, I have always had that, just kind of trying to figure out a way to make it kind of on my own kind of thing. But, I've talked with a lot of friends about this and they say, oh, I just don't have this or that. But, I think people often get confused because it's scary that they don't have it. But it's scary for everybody. Even in the land business, I'd started many companies before, but, can we cuss? Because, I was scared shitless.
Fuck yeah.
I really was, every day, every morning, really scared because, I did put it all on the line. I did promise myself I wouldn't do anything else and I would go broke. So I was hoping that wouldn't happen. And I found something that I felt I would really enjoy. And, it's like falling in love. You just really want it to happen and you're scared it's not going to happen, but you got to get up and, or I had to kind of get up, talk myself up into putting in the effort every single day. And it's scary. It's not something that's, I think even, Richard Branson would probably tell you starting something new is scary. I think it's something that's really tough to ever get over.
It is. And, it's, I think it's where a lot of people struggle and where I have struggled in, burning the ships, so to speak. And just kind of always been on the fence between going full time and having a job. And I've gone back and forth a couple times, but, when you got a family, it's a lot, you're not just thinking about yourself.
Sure.
I don't care what age I am. If I didn't have a family, it's like, I know I can do something to like your buddy said, Howard, if you got half a brain and are willing to work decently hard, you can at least feed yourself. If I had to, I'd go live in a trailer and, you live on top ramen and tuna fish and work myself out of bankruptcy. But when you got a family, it's a little more difficult. I think that's where a lot of people do struggle with going out and rolling the dice. Mm-hmm. For sure. Absolutely. It's not easy.
If you're single and if you're listening to this and you're single and you're in your 20s, this is your moment. Right? Do not squander this opportunity, because Dave is absolutely right. When you got a wife and kids and a mortgage and all these responsibilities and people who are counting on you, it's harder. Now, just to put that in perspective, I got to say a quick thing about Joe. Joe is nuts. Joe was one of the best entrepreneurs I've ever met. So by the time Joe quit Lucent, he had somewhere between 3 and 6 children. I don't remember at the time. I think he ended up with 6, but I don't remember exactly how many he had at that moment. And he simply took a letter and gave it to his boss and walked out the door and said, I'm out of here. I can't do this. This is not who I am. And he had no job, no prospects, nothing except belief in himself. And he didn't like living in New Jersey. So he just said, I'm quitting. I'm getting a U-Haul. We're moving to California. I went over there. I helped him load up the U-Haul. I waved as they drove off. And, he's ridiculously wealthy now. He basically travels the world on his private airplane and looks for new opportunities. Because it wasn't about security. The security is like for him, it wasn't about money. The security came from knowing who he was and that he would always be able to figure it out. That was what was important.
Yeah, maybe he's one of those rare birds that don't have that fear.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. He was like very much like Steve Jobs.
That's amazing. And you know what? The fear does get better over time. I have to say, the more we face, the more we gain that muscle, of being able to face fear. So yes, I was really scared, starting this, but again, like you said, I had done it before. It's not my first rodeo, and I had faith, and it was something I was really interested in, and that's a driving force, right there is doing something that you're really interested in.
Yeah,
I know we want to get and talk more about how you built your organization, but before we get there, there's something else that you said. I just want to unpack it a little bit more. So here you are. You've already built multiple businesses. You've already had success. You've sold a business. You're starting this new thing. So at least from a business perspective and understanding how to build and run a business, you know how to do that already. You learn the land business. I mean, the actual process of the land business, it doesn't take that long to learn, but that's the basics. That's not the nuance. That's not, you don't become massively successful by learning the 101 stuff. But you made a decision, despite all of your knowledge and experience coming into this, you made a decision early on to get a mentor. Mm-hmm. Just tell us why you did that and what impact it made on your business.
Oh, well, the impact was huge for sure. Without a doubt. I mean, could I have gotten where I would be without a mentor? I think so, but I think that the time that it would have taken would have been, where I was at in 6 months would have taken me 2 years. Where I was at in a year would have taken me 3 years. I think our first year, I don't know, we did around 100 transactions. So it's, 50 properties on each side. I think maybe purchased 60 and sold 40 or something like that. But for the first year, that's generally a lot compared to what I've seen most newbies start with. But the mentors, was a big part of that, because I had somebody on the phone, that I could call or email and say, hey, I ran into this situation. Seller said this, what do I say? Buyer said this, what do I say? And I didn't have to Google it. I didn't have to research. I didn't have to brainstorm. I didn't have to ask the wrong people and get the wrong advice.
Yes.
And make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, which I've done in previous businesses. And it just was like made things so much easier and so much faster to get, to where I'm at now.
So would you say you had a pretty good ROI on that, on paying for that mentor?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Time and time again, good ROI. And I think also the most important thing when looking for a mentor is I had multiple mentors that I could choose from, but I approached a mentor that I knew had actually done deals and was currently doing deals at some level,
Absolutely.
So that was the most important thing. I was just said, if he can do it, then I can do it. And he's doing it, so I can do it. So right. That was my thought process.
When I first started, I tell this all the time, I did not have success out of the gate by a long shot. It took me 6 months to hit my stride and start feeling like, okay, this is starting to work. I'm getting a little momentum. And I just remember in those first 6 months, I would look, I'd be on the Facebook groups and I would hear about all these people doing these deals. And the thought that just kept popping in my mind is, I may not be better than anybody else, but none of these guys are better than me either. And they're succeeding. And if they can succeed, well, then damn it, I can succeed too. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nuances to this business. I mean, if there weren't any nuances and it was just, hey, put a letter in the mail and magic shows up, then everybody would be doing it, and we would have no need for mentors at all. You'd be able to buy a 10-page pamphlet, and you're off to the races. But every deal is different in what we do. It's every single deal is different. Every single property is a different size, different specifications, different county, different location, and every buyer and every seller is different. What are their motivations, and how do you deal with the county offices? I mean, there's just so many nuances to it. So, having somebody who's been there and have those quick answers for me, that really helped out.
And how many times, we like to say, what do we say? Our business, there's 4 principles in mentorship and coaching, and one of them is affirmation. How many times would you say that maybe you shot your mentor a text or called him, and because you weren't sure if you were doing it right, and he just said, "No, attaboy, you're keep going, you're doing it right."
Oh man, his phone was blowing up. His phone was blowing up. Are you sure? Are you sure? I sent out letters. I haven't heard anything. Are you sure? And he's like, just keep sending them. Keep sending them. I'm like, oh my God, it's not working.
Yeah. Because I find that, a lot of times with my students, it's 9 times out of 10, it's like, nope, you're doing great. Trust me, just trust the process. Keep going. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people quit. A lot of people, take courses and whatnot, and they don't get the mentorship, and they have a bad mailer or two, or they have some other struggles, and they quit.
No,
I find that the people who stick with it and the people who quit, while they're in coaching, there's one quality that differs between those two groups. The group that succeeds is the group like Roman, where I, as the coach, my phone is blowing up all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, they're calling again. But, I don't really mind, because obviously if they are that committed to their success, I'm that committed to their success. The much worse situation is you never hear from them unless it's at a scheduled meeting. Mm-hmm. And then, because all this time has elapsed and they're trying to figure it out and they're guessing rather than utilizing the coach to the fullest extent, they don't have the success at the same rate. They lose their belief, both in the business and in themselves, and then they quit. So again, this is to anybody who would even consider coaching. My recommendation is, don't be afraid to use that service. Use it until the coach says, all right, we're kind of hitting a limit here. But if they're not saying that, use them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of don't think you're, push them until they push back. It's like, all right, group your questions. I'll handle it tomorrow. I have that relationship with my clients, and for the most part, I'm answering them. But it's just have a respect, and people are going to be fine. But use them.
You got to get into the main.
Milk them for all they're worth.
Well, see, because you're a businessman, you're saying, all right, I'm paying this much for coaching. I want to get this much value.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
This is a business transaction.
Listen, you idiot. I told you this yesterday.
You're going to sleep? It's only 2 a.m. Get back on the phone.
If I'm not sleeping, you're not sleeping.
Did you know I have my own business to run? All right, let's get into the meat here. We've been BSing long enough.
Okay. All right, so you've done something a little different than the vast majority of land investors. So I just want to set this up just a little bit, because to me, this is the heart and soul of what Land.MBA is all about. It's about this thing that I like to call the CEO mindset. So we talk about thinking big, starting small, and scaling fast. And I'll say most people, maybe not all, but most people come into this business and they think big. I mean, some are saying, oh, I want to get my 10,000 a month and then I can cover my nut and then everything will be fine. Some people are coming in and saying, oh, no, I want to, I want the Ferrari and the big mansion and whatever. And some people just say, I just want max success, whatever it is. And then you start small, which makes sense, because you're, the beginning of the process is learning. And so you want to learn at a pace that's going to maximize your learning, but also minimize your risk when you don't know what the hell you're doing. And then once you kind of get to a point of, okay, I think I know how this all works, is you want to scale, and you want to scale fast. And the problem is that when you're in the start small phase, you're kind of doing everything yourself. You are the operations of the business. And then when it comes time to scaling, a lot of people can't break away from that. And so they can't grow more than incrementally because they are the bottleneck in their business. Their time, their effort, their energy is the bottleneck. And maybe I'm going to expand. I'm going to leverage myself a little bit through VAs, automation obviously, but through VAs. And that seems to be the primary approach. Is we're going to use some VAs to do this, that, or the other thing. But it still only gives you a limited flight path from starting small. It doesn't allow you to really get that hockey stick of growth. And you've taken a completely different approach to how you grew your leverage. And I think that's what we really want to hone in on for the rest of this podcast.
Sure.
Tell us how you scaled and leveraged yourself.
Well, I brought on full-timers. I've used VAs in the past. We actually still use VAs to some extent. We do have a full-time VA who's been with us since the beginning, and he's just awesome. And so he's still with us. He's technically the first employee because I did first start with VAs. Even though I did have a little bit of a bankroll going in from the previous sale of my business, I still, wanted to keep everything super streamlined in the beginning and make sure and grow appropriately. I would never recommend somebody just, unless they have really deep pockets, to just go out and just hire a whole team and get everybody started. I would never recommend that. So we started with the VA, but after that, it's limited. I find VAs as limited to being able to train them, the scope and the ramp up period for them to be highly effective is pretty slow because there's just something to be said for direct one-on-one in-person training and communication.
Yeah, I've always found that, when I start with VAs, I try to never give VAs anything other than task-oriented assignments. Yeah. I try not to give them things that require any significant business judgment. That's just not what you do. But if you really want to create leverage in the business, if you can find somebody who's got the skills, the intelligence, the motivation, and the judgment to actually make business decisions, then the level of scale is, it's to the moon. But it's really, really hard to do that with somebody who you can't reach out and touch, or certainly, somebody who's on the other side of the world.
It's very hard. It's very hard to do that. It's also very hard to vet people because even more importantly of kind of what you're touching on, even more importantly than where are they located is, what kind of person are they? Are they someone who has good judgment? Are they someone who can complete what they say? Do they have a good attitude? And, vetting for me, I'm big on vetting people. So, we've got an amazing team. I just am so happy with them and they do such a great job. And it comes from vetting, so we go through interview, we bring, oh my gosh, so many resumes in the door. And then we limit those resumes to so many people we're interviewing. And then we go through a full selection process because of how important, whether it be, and I do this with VAs too, by the way, I do a pretty extensive VA vetting process. If they're doing something more than just, data correction, if they're doing data correction and they have experience, then fine. But, if they're going to have any kind of responsibility, then I'm going to be vetting them just, very stringently as well. So it's the quality of the team is more important than just having a team or not having a team, because as we know, you could have a team of, sleep on the jobbers and they're just milking your business. They have to be value generating. So every person on the team costs the company some level of money.
Mhm.
And they have to be, the way I look at it is I don't hire, I used to hire people like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. Let me just hire somebody to take the overwhelm off. Well, it doesn't work, because then you get lazy and you're just overwhelmed again. And then you hire somebody else, and then you get even more lazy, and then you hire somebody. So I don't hire because we're just busy, and overwhelmed at all. I've got to be able to see how that position will generate more income for the company than it costs the company, period, hands down, for every position. Even if it is something like an assistant, if I can see that the assistant will free up my time so that I can take my time and put it on something that's more valuable for the company, well, then that position generates value for the company. So that's how I look at everybody on the team. And because of that, we've got a nice tight team of incredible people.
Hey folks, my name is David Van Steenkist, and I've been a real estate investor for over 10 years. I've used lots of different tools, but none of them has done for my business what LandSpeed does. LandSpeed covers every step in the land investing process, from ordering mailing lists to marketing, sales, and closing the deal. What I really like, though, is it anticipates my needs. When I think, oh, I wish I had a quick and easy way to evaluate return on investment on a potential property, look no further, LandSpeed does it. If I want to edit a deed after LandSpeed creates it, it can do that too. Most systems just stick you with a PDF that's uneditable, and you got to go back into the system and edit the fields and do whatever you need to do, and it's a real pain in the rear end. LandSpeed simplifies it. If I want to send 1 or 5 or even 40 neighbor letters at the click of a button, bam, LandSpeed does it. But even with all that inherent capability, you get access to LandSpeed Community, you get weekly mastermind calls, and you get the best mailing rates in the business with no volume commitment, which is freaking awesome. Because if I just want to pop one contract to somebody, I don't have to pay $1.50. I still pay the bargain basement rate. And on top of that, customer service is stellar, quick, and they just do a great job. I've been very, very happy, very pleased with it. And look, I've been running my business on LandSpeed for over 2 years. So take it from me. If you're serious about your land business, then check out LandSpeed at facebook.com/landbizautomation. That's land, B-I-Z automation. And if you want $100 off, tell them you heard it from me, David Van Steenkist, on the Land.MBA podcast. Now, your office is actually at your house, right?
Currently, yeah. So my upstairs is 1, 2, 3 offices. So everybody comes in upstairs. We've had up to, I think, six people up there at one time. We're looking at getting an office probably here in the next few months once everything settles down. But there's no problem.
Probably going to be a good time to find a good deal.
Yeah,
I'm actually looking for that myself too, because my house is not in a situation where with a family I can bring people in, but I've been leaning more towards your philosophy as of late. But I need to, first of all, they can't come in because of coronavirus, but that's not going to last too long. But yeah, I'm looking for an office. I'd love to find a situation where I only need half the space and I can sublet the rest and cover my nut.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think you can get a lot of cheap commercial real estate soon enough, and it'll even come with a huge kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Repurposing restaurant space.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of open office space in nice neighborhoods.
Yeah. No, I think there's going to be some opportunities there.
So just, at a high level, so you hire well, and then of course they've got to prove themselves. But it sounds like when you hire, you're not saying, I need some help, so I'm going to hire somebody to help me. It's more like you've got a bit of an organizational design, and you say, okay, for these functions, I'm going to hire a person here, or maybe for these functions, I'm going to hire a person over there. And of course, then you need to start building sort of the symbiosis of the organization so that they function together as a team. So there's team building. And then, I guess even at an individual level, there's comp and motivation and making sure that they feel committed to your company, because I mean, if they only last 3 months, then you got to bring somebody else in and train somebody else. That really eats into the profits as well. So just maybe talk at a high level how you do, how you motivate people and how you build a team.
Step number one, you got to treat people right, and you got to treat them well. I mean, these are like your best friends. And, one thing that, and this isn't me patting myself on the back at all, it's just indicating this, there's always disagreements in any relationship, right? So that does happen from time to time, but I've been told many times by the people who work with me that I'm the best boss that they ever had. And whether that be exactly true or not, at least it indicates that they're happy with me and they're happy with the way that they're being treated within the position. So, and within the job and within the company and within the organization. So step number one is just, they're not there to be your slaves. They're there to help you and you're there to help them. So you got to treat them really well, and you want to treat them really well because they want you to, because you want them to treat you really well and treat your business well and respect it. That's the first thing, hands down. Building a company culture like that so that, everybody's on the same team. Everybody has a say. When we have big choices in the business, I bring it to everybody and we all talk about it. Everyone on the team is incentivized with company growth. So they share in the money that comes in the door, not only for their job role. So they have certain incentives for their job role specifically, but also as the company as a whole. So as we all grow together, everybody gets to benefit from that. And just doing everything I can do to help them do their job better. A lot of times employees are shy to ask for a new stapler, but they're using this busted old piece of crap that, takes them, 5 minutes to get some paper stapled correctly. And it's like, no. Give me that. We're getting you like a nice top of the line stapler so that you feel good about it. And the thing works first time, whatever you need a backrest, you need a new mouse pad. I mean, like, how's that monitor? Do we need to get you a second monitor? Whatever I can do to provide that for them, and make their job. My job is to make their job easy so that they can be productive. And however I can do that, have it be rewarding. And that's what I found to be helpful in creating a solid team.
That's great. Although I do feel compelled to say the last time I heard somebody say, they tell me I'm the best boss they ever had, I was watching The Office. No.
I think I've got that mug somewhere, actually.
World's best boss.
Oh, you're the assistant to the general manager. Beats, Bears, and Battlestar Galactica.
Well, I think we're getting close to the end here, Dave. Did you have any other questions you wanted to pose here?
Well, I think we've covered a lot of yardage here with Mr. Northcut today. I don't have any questions left. Do you have anything, last words you want to talk about, Roman? Also, before we go, is if people would like to learn more about you and what has made you so successful, is there a way to get in contact with you?
The best way is to just find me on Facebook. Which my tag, I think it's facebook.com/Roman Northcut, RomanNorthcut. And that's the best way.
Awesome.
I feel like we didn't even talk about real estate here.
Well, you got something on your mind?
No, not really. But I was just thinking about that. We
talked a little bit about land. We talked about, you know what? Okay, I got one question.
Podcast about the business of land.
It is, but you know what? Let's end on this.
That's a good point.
Because I know you got a wow or two up your sleeve.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your best, most smoking deal you've ever done. Your wow.
Yeah, right.
Or two.
Okay, well, you guys know about it. I don't know I think you know about how it ended. It took a little bit of time, took a bit of work, but I guess it was a couple years ago. Sent out some offers, got an offer back on a property that our buy price was about $20,000. And the gentleman said, well, I've got this property, but it's one of my smaller ones. And this one's only about 10 acres, but I've got some other properties if you'd be interested in them. I said, well, how much do you have? He said, well, it's about a total of 1,000 acres. I said, oh, okay. And I said, yeah, I'm definitely interested, and I said, maybe we can find a time to meet. Let's meet face to face. And you can give me a tour of the property. So we did, met face to face, gave him a tour of the property. I didn't have the funds to buy a property like that. And he did want he was asking a pretty, I would say, fair price, or maybe even a below fair price on it. So I put it under option for $10. And it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of work. We put it up online. I think originally he wanted just over $2 million for it. And we were going to sell it for try to sell it for around $3 million and do a flip. We were looking at huge profit numbers. That didn't come out quite that good, but it still came out pretty good. Eventually, over time, we weren't getting solid buyers, and I was able to kind of talk to him a little bit more and say, give me your best price, period. Because we tried to drop it incrementally. We tried to break it up into pieces, but he really wanted to sell it all at once. I was like, look, if you want to sell it, just give me your best price. And I think it was about 1.5 million was his best price. And I promised him that I would do my best. So I marked it up, and to give myself a gap, nowhere near what I was originally hoping in my grand scheme of things, but we were able to quickly sell it after we made that adjustment. It took about a year to get to this point with him, to get it down to his best. But after that, it only took probably 30 days to get the offer and maybe another 60 days to close on it. So about 3 months, the deal was done. And I think we picked it. Our purchase price on it was 1.5 million, and we sold it for a little over 1.6. So we made about $135,000 cash.
Any money down? $10.
And $10.
Dollar option fee.
Not no money. I mean, come on, this is not a no money down deal. It costs $10 for the contract. So $10
paper and
plus the ink. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love doing options because if there's the stuff that we do every day that buy for $1, sell for $2, small deals that we know we can sell them. Yeah, we just buy them when we sell them. But stuff that's big and stuff that I'm not quite sure about. God, I love options if people will go for it.
Options are great. Absolutely.
Yeah. And especially if you don't have the money, you don't have to go borrow it and share 50%. You can option it and keep all of it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great way to do those larger deals as well.
For sure.
Yeah. It's a couple of those a year, and everything else is just sort of the frosting on the cake.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a fun one.
Exactly.
Roman, thanks so much for your time today. It was great talk, very inspiring. I think you probably gave a lot of people a lot to think about. If you want to reach out to Roman, you can reach him on Facebook, facebook.com/Roman Northcut. Dave, thanks very much. And we'll see you all next time.
Adios.
Take care. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.